That's great, Chair. Thank you very much. And thank you to Mental Health Ireland, I suppose, representing mental health reform that's with us here today. I suppose I'm a senator representing Roscommon and Galway, based in Ballinasloe, so very much the rural area as well. And I suppose mental health is huge in our area as well, and protecting people and making sure people are safe. I read through your submissions, and I suppose I've just looked a little bit on your website. I'd be very interested. I mean, we talked an awful lot about waiting lists. How we're using innovation to tackle that. So I know that you probably have a number of ideas on that, but I suppose the question which I posed, I know, to the Minister as well, was, what particular projects, maybe under eHealth Ireland, eHealth, the section within the HSC, maybe that might be focused on mental health, or would you have any ideas around that? I suppose we are seeing the largest budget ever in mental health. Like, we're seeing roughly about 1.1 billion this year. It is the largest ever in Irish history towards mental health services. And it has been focused, I think, on capital infrastructure, like building those acute 50-bed units. We need to see more, particularly in my area of Roscommon. We just have Roscommon University Hospital with a 22-bed unit, particularly in our CHO, Community Healthcare West. There are some early intervention steps that have been done, like community crisis cafes been set up in Galway. I suppose I'd be curious just to hear what your thoughts are around that, because I do believe it's really important, along with ideas like telehealth, how we're going to use technologies to reduce waiting lists. Just on the point there from Deputy Crowe as well, I know that in Tipperary, and you mentioned as well in your submission about the cross-focus between different departments. It's really important. I know Healthy Ireland, under the Department of Health, under the public health section, is really involved in local authorities, and Make the Move was an initiative in North Tip, actually, very close to the area I'm in, that really tackled a high sort of mental health, I suppose, in farming, and how to engage with that farming cohort, farming families. I suppose just the very last item for me would just be to highlight men's sheds as well. Men's sheds, I think, is really crucial. There's a really good one in Balladreen in Roscommon. Pat Toy is excellent, and I think that that's just a really great way as well to connect with our communities in rural areas, and particularly for older men that sometimes are isolated, and I suppose particularly over the last year to 2 years. So yeah, I suppose those are just some of my quick questions, and thank you very much, Chair, for the time.
Who wants to respond?
Okay, I'll go first.
Thank you.
Yes, I suppose to speak to the last point on Healthy Ireland, and the HSE is developing a mental health promotion strategy, because Healthy Ireland has been a fantastic initiative, and has really had very concrete and great outcomes due to the work that they've done, but it has always been a bit light on mental health promotion, and there's a specific need for activity in that area. The HSE is developing a strategy, and it would be great to see that resourced and implemented. Of course, a lot of the work that Mental Health Ireland does is around mental health promotion, and yes, you're right, I forgot to mention men's sheds, a crucial part of that kind of community-based infrastructure that supports people who aren't going to show up and have a face-to-face chat about their well-being with somebody. Yeah. So that kind of thing is really important. In terms of e-health, Fiona has spoken at length about some of the difficulties, and challenges surrounding e-health. It is a really useful tool. I think we could start to use it more strategically. Certainly, some people really like to engage through e-mental health. People who, again, don't want to have that very formal setting, or certainly younger people, it seems to have been very popular in having consultations through e-health. We have to be careful that it's not seen as the only port, and that it's just kind of an easy way of filling a gap. But it's certainly a really useful tool.
I would agree with you. Sorry, Dr. Keogh, on that.
Yes.
To my mind, it's just that there's a suite of measures that can be used to engage, exactly, I think, with people with mental health difficulties. However, in order to reduce waiting lists, to make sure that people are able to engage with a healthcare professional, I do think that we have to look at what types of technologies and innovation can we use to reach out, to make sure that there is that contact. I think there's a lot of online website resources as well. I think it's at mymind.org, I think, is doing online counselling sessions. happens. And I know we have the 50808 number as well for text
Yeah.
for anyone that's going through a challenging episode. But I do believe that we need engagement across all areas with e-health and sort of pushing how we can make sure that our services reach people, because the challenge is that
absolutely.
there's no point
Yeah.
waiting for 2 years for a service. If we can find a way to deliver that service, at least the initial engagement that can identify
I agree. Yes, no, I agree
the acute nature.
wholeheartedly. It's a really vital tool, and I mean, there's really useful, CBT can now be done on like cognitive behaviour therapy, and specific therapeutic interventions can be very effectively carried out online, have been very well evaluated and found to produce very good outcomes. So I agree wholeheartedly. It's definitely going to be increasingly important part of our infrastructure in terms of responding to people.
And I think the psychiatry of later life, I mean, when it comes to dementia, we are using an awful lot more robotics when it comes to engaging with people with dementia, in terms of, that they would have more creativity. They're looking at engaging the creative side. You can even look at, they use a lot of songs and ways like this to engage with people. And particularly where we may be short on resources, we have to find ways that we can have that one-to-one engagement, I think, particularly with older people. It is something close to my heart. I suppose you would be aware that we had St. Bridget's psychiatric institution here in Ballinasloe, a wonderful institution that was here that delivered acute services. And I know the move and the model is towards more community-based care, but I do very much believe the importance of acute intervention, and how, I suppose one thing I will be following up with the Minister is how we engage with our frontline services when we see these acute areas of intervention, particularly with the guards. And I see that you mentioned the prison service there as well, that the prisons are the ones that are tackling a lot of the acute areas. So I just very much appreciate that have been highlighted as well. Sorry, Chair, thank you very much for your time. I don't know if they have time to respond.
Okay.
Thank you.
Could I just add one small point? Maybe we can follow up with the Deputy, but mental health reform has been engaged in a European initiative called, funded by Interreg, called eMen since 2015. So we've actually been engaged in e-mental health since, for a long time, and we're happy to follow up maybe with some additional information, because we can learn a lot from, especially the Netherlands, and even the UK are much further advanced, but maybe we can follow up separately with more information, Senator Dolan.
Thank you, Fiona. You did have an awful lot on your website as well under innovation, which I thought was excellent. So well done. Thank you.